Hello, friends. I'm Kevin, pastor for Crosswind Community Church, and I'm glad you're joining me today for this word from the Bible. Our Bible reading for today comes from the Old Testament book of Isaiah, chapter 53. We're going to be reading together verses 2 through 6, and I'll be reading for you from the New Living Translation. Let's hear what the prophet Isaiah has to say to us today. My servant grew up in the Lord's presence like a tender green shoot, like a root in dry ground. There was nothing beautiful or majestic about his appearance, nothing to attract us to him. He was despised and rejected, a man of sorrows, acquainted with deepest grief. We turned our backs on him and looked the other way. He was despised and we did not care. Yet it was our weakness he carried. It was our sorrows that weighed him down. And we thought his troubles were a punishment from God, a punishment for his own sins. But he was pierced for our rebellion, crushed for our sins. He was beaten so we could be whole. He was whipped so we could be healed. All of us, like sheep, have strayed away. We have left God's paths to follow our own. Yet the Lord laid on him the sins of us all. May God add a blessing to the reading, hearing, and our understanding of his word. As I thought about this passage from the book of Isaiah, I was reminded of a time when my wife Karen and I were in our early 20s and we had bought our first house. Our daughter, our first child, was maybe a year old, and we didn't have a lot of money. And as you can imagine, our house needed some repairs, as most houses do. The stairs to our basement were very steep, and they were weak and broken and cracked, and they needed to be replaced. They were unsafe. And so my dad volunteered to do that project. He drew up the plans, he ordered the materials, he did all the work. And when the project was done, we not only had these beautiful, straight, sturdy stairs to our basement, but we had a new rear porch and entrance door into our house. And we owed nothing. It was paid in full. My dad covered the cost. Well, today's Bible reading reminded me that I have lived a costly life. I've incurred in my lifetime debt that I can never repay. Today is my 21,520th day of life. 21,520 days I have been alive. Now, if you want to do the math, you should be able to figure out about how old I am, and if you're really good, you may be able to pinpoint when my next birthday will come. But each and every one of those days, I have in some way sinned. Which means that I have in some way chosen to go my own way rather than to follow God's path for my life. I've rebelled against God. And because of that, today marks at least the 21,520th time that I deserve to live an eternity separated from God. Because of my sin, I deserve to live an eternity separated from God. And that's a lot of eternities, isn't it? But the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I love this because God doesn't leave us hanging there. The good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ is like the stairs in my first house. That debt has been paid in full. In verses 5 and 6 of our reading today, we learn how that debt was paid, and we learned what costly price that debt was. It tells us that Jesus was pierced for our rebellion, that he was crushed for our sin, that he was beaten and whipped. God laid the price of our debt on his Son, Jesus. But why? Why? Well, it tells us that. In verse 5, it says, so that we could be whole, so that we could be healed. By his wounds, we are healed. In other words, Jesus' pain became our gain. And so, friends, when we look to the cross, maybe it's a cross, if your house is like mine, you've got crosses in various places on the walls in your home. Or maybe it's the cross at your church. Maybe it's the cross that you wear around your neck. It could be any of a number of places. But when you look to the cross, when you think about the death of Jesus, I think two things really need to stand out to us. And the first is this: the complete awfulness, the terribleness, if you will, of our sin against God. But the second thing should cause us to smile every time we see the cross, and that is the amazing grace that God has offered to us. The amazing grace that God has offered to us. And so, friends, we need to be thankful to God this day for his sacrifice. And may we, as we consider God's amazing grace for our life, may we live into that grace and be that blessing to others. Well, friends, I hope that these words have found meaning for your life and have been relevant to you. I pray that you will continue to grow in your faith in Jesus Christ. I want to let you know that today is going to be my last morning word from the Bible. The word from the Bible is not going away, but it's going to change. And so I invite you to keep an eye on Crosswind's Facebook page. There will be an announcement coming. I'm going to take a brief break, but then I believe this is going to become a once a week word from the Bible. I believe it will probably happen on Wednesday night. And I'm hoping that it will be a Zoom and a Facebook Live event where we can actually interact with each other. And so I hope that you will join with me in prayer about this new ministry to come. My hope is that we can bring more people into our Bible study and into our discussion. Until then, have a blessed day. Find a way on this rainy Thursday to be a blessing to others. And I will see you in my kitchen again with a cup of coffee sometime soon.